Alright, I should probably open this Red Bull and see if the energy can kick in as quickly as possible. Mmm. Delicious. Apricot strawberry. I'm not sure if do these flavors exist in the US as well? Let me know in the comments below. Alright. So if you're just tuning into the VOD, as usual, thank you. Feel free to skip around. It usually takes a little while to get warmed up and started. This is probably just a raw dump of the live stream that you're watching, assuming I get around to remembering to upload all of them. I am desperately behind. Apologies for that. What's up, Rev? Flavor of Red Bull. Do you guys have the summer edition apricot strawberry where you're at? It's delicious. Hey, Belfaster. Not that you've seen, but you're not a huge Red Bull guy. Next time you're at a store, take a look. So let me, while people are still appearing, let me dig around a little bit and see if I can find what's going on with the, jeez. Clear your throat already. Silly streamer. Wow. Rev said morning to Belfast. I like that. We have a nice little community. I think his mic can probably move a little bit. Let me know if you can't hear me or whatever. Animations. I need Zukin to wake up and log in. That would be awesome. Prefab? Doing pretty good. What's up, Remes? This song's really good. It's kind of hitting the old TV show vibe. This isn't what I'm looking for. Nah, I don't think that's what I'm looking for. Race models, mob models. I haven't dug around in here for forever. So later on, once some folks get in here, I'm gonna watch a video that Zukin posted to our Slack from Josh Hayes. Yeah, I found it to be a really interesting video. Seemed like it'd be worth discussing. I don't do a lot of that, watching videos and talking about them. But this one seemed like it'd be worth us chatting about. Excuse me. Red Bull. I smoked a pretty small, but still worthwhile. Oh, that's funny. Right as I was about to say that, I popped over to Discord to see if I had posted a picture, and I hadn't. So I smoked a pork butt yesterday for like, it probably all said and done about 6 hours of my morning and afternoon were dedicated to that, just because Jasmine had class last night, so I knew I'd be able to just spend the evening working since she was in class. So I spent my daytime smoking some meat. Let me see if I can post this on Discord real quick. this. Oh. What's up, Ollie? When you heading to the beach, dude? Technology. Good morning. Arthan. Good to see you. What kind of woods do they smoke with over here? There's actually, they do a lot of, you can buy a lot of smoked meats at like the butcher shop or the grocery store or whatever, but like individuals smoking, not as common. Don't have a lot of, so I was looking at different woods for smoking, and if you buy them in a store, they're just ridiculously priced. They're usually name brand, but I get oak pretty cheap. I just used oak. It's not as good as, you know, apple or hickory or mesquite or whatever, but I had oak available. I used it, and I liked it. I had it sit in a rub a day longer than I thought because just timing and stuff like that, and it wound up being fantastic. So we'll do it again. The reason why I did this was because one of our neighbors at the garden came over on Saturday. We were all just kind of like going to each other's gardens and drinking and hanging out, and then he came over, like they all came over to ours and saw that I had a smoker, which I got a barrel smoker for like $25 on like our version of like Craigslist meets eBay. And it's pretty much brand new. I was shocked, but the apartments here are so small that the kid that bought it from a friend of his that worked at like a restaurant where they did smoked meats, it filled in his entire balcony, so he didn't really use it. So $25. Anyways, the one guy was like, you'll have to make pulled pork. So he keeps saying, I'm gonna have to eventually teach him. It's just pulled, but you'll have to make us pulled pork. And so I was like, all right, I should probably, if I'm talking shit about smoking meats in Texas and stuff, I should probably get some practice in before I go to make one day, and it's all booty. If you guys aren't on my Discord, if you're only in M&M Discord, first of all, that's all you need to, that's perfect. Good for you. Good move. If you're not in M&M Discord, I was gonna make a mistake about my inability to say M&M. Like, damn it, the name was a mistake. Damn you, Discord. No, just kidding. Here's the Loving Robot Discord, where I'm pretty stacked in it, and it's not really set up very well. Nick did a superior professional expert job on our M&M Discord. I'm gonna have to get him to help me fix mine up a little bit, I guess. But I think, you know, when I am posting to it, it's probably going to be kind of more bullshit like this, that I don't want to clutter up the professional site. Bikes and Bows, howdy. Who else I miss? Hey, Pattis. Like, I gotta fix this thing with these stickers. When people come in for the first time, I appreciate you coming in, but then people use, like, the big versions of the stickers or whatever, and they're god-awful. I've always just tried to find a fairly cheap barrel smoker, and I'd go to town on it until it falls apart, like $100 at Home Depot or something. Yeah, Belfaster, the idea of woods in the area is guiding that sort of thing. It's interesting. That's a nice coincidence. They're probably not in yet, but whoever recommended Mysterious Universe to me. Let me go to Mysterious Universe. I So whoever recommended Mysterious Universe, the first one I listened to was yesterday, and it was this one called Decivilization, and it's a review of a book that sounded super interesting to me. So I have now bought the audiobook and I listened to it on my bicycle ride up to the garden, and while I was watering the plants and back so far this morning. The name of the book is The End of the World is Just the Beginning, Mapping the Collapse of Globalization. Sketchy, but it just made me think of what you just said, Belfaster. Because it's basically it gets into like how crazy of an opportunity we've had over the last like 50, 70 years to have the civilization that we have, and how quickly it's going to unravel due to rapid depopulation due to us not breeding fast enough. So this guy's he's a researcher and consultant. You work for Stratfor, but he consults with like U.S. government and CIA and Defense Department and all sorts of stuff. And he's just done the math on it, and just based on the math, it sounds like. Well, anyways, if you're interested in the topic, I'll shut up on it. You should go to Mysterious Universe and listen to Decivilization. It's some Australian guys. Get on it. I'm doing my part. It's fair, man. I'm just old, though. You're a younger, more virile man. End SC2. Thank you for 2 months. So anyways, these guys, they're very entertaining. I'm absolutely going to listen to more of their podcasts. They cover all sorts of like interesting stuff. Like June 23rd, that's today. Head of Hercules found on a 2,000-year-old shipwreck that had that crazy, was it Antikythera mechanism? Anyways, that old like that weird computer device that they found. This one I want to listen to next. Romania's Department Zero. Romania's Department Zero. Deep within the intelligence agencies of Romania is the secretive Department Zero. Established to seek out and train children of exceptional abilities, the clandestine group also functions to clean up anomalous, I can't speak English, anomalous events and keep unexplained phenomenon from the general population. What? We hear the story of a man who worked his way up through the ranks to become the director of the unit, only to be thrust into an occult firefight with a secret society intent on controlling the world with its knowledge of an arcane technology, which sounds like every damn short story and book I've ever wanted to write. Right there. Wish Secret World was a better game. I would have loved it so much. Anyways, so listen to the Decivilization. They do a nice overview on it. It's super sketchy. They're laughing the whole time, but it's a laugh of like, oh my gosh, we're doomed. Spoiler alert, good news if you live in America. If you live in America, you are the least doomed of us on the planet in the next 20 years. So, have fun. Anyway, so check that out. Do Germans consider you to have an accent when I speak English or when I speak German? When I speak German, yeah, I've been asked if I'm American, Swedish, and Russian so far. But my German's kind of garbage, so. Red Bull. It's my Friday, so, and I just ate a bunch of candy, and I'm already halfway through my Red Bull, so it'll be exciting for the first hour, and then I'll crash, and then we'll just take a nap. Belfaster, on the topic of smoking. Different words for different purposes. Typically, there is some overlap though, but if you're smoking something for 14 hours, you don't want to use the strong stuff. Post oak being everywhere in the southeast is pure happenstance. but it's really well balanced. Balance between heat, smoke, and burn time among the smoking woods. Nice. I just so happen to be getting a whole bunch more oak anyways. Like, Jasmine's been thinking I was joking around. We have a fireplace. And I was like, all right, let's get 12 bags of wood. And that was going, in the spring when things started looking weird. I was like, let's get 12 bags of wood. And then as I was following sort of the gas situation and everything here, energy situation in Europe, I was like, hey, Jasmine, can you call the guy up and have him deliver us 24 more bags? Because we've got a garage we don't use, so it's like, but now I may actually get her to buy 36 bags and put them in there, and then we can cart stuff up to use in the garden as well. I think it's going to be a cold winter here. Zoidberg said not breeding enough. I thought we were way overpopulated. Oh, no. That's a misconception. All of this garbage about there's too many people, we don't have enough resources, it's going to kill the planet. It's wrong. It's just absolutely mathematically wrong. That's why, like them or not, if you look, the guys were talking about it on the podcast, if you look at Elon Musk's Twitter, if you're on Twitter, I guess he's got something pinned talking about the fact that we're screwed because we haven't bred enough. China is in a severely they're in a very bad position. It was interesting because I do a lot of reading about China. My big hobby is reading about shit, random stuff like this, and for all of the things that they're doing right on the sort of imperial sort of escalation of power front and the stealth war they've been fighting for the last 20 years, they don't have enough people. Their population is going to age out just like everybody else, if not a bit harder. And yeah, Europe's in a very tough situation. Germany's got one of the lowest it's had for a while now, one of the lowest birth rates in the world. But can population grow forever on Earth? We don't have to get to a point of post-population growth. Don't have to get to. But can population grow forever on Earth? Well, in theory, depending on what we're doing with the population, it could. But the thing is, it's just not. It's just mathematically not. It's not one of those things that's arguable. It's not a philosophical question. We have aging populations that don't have enough young people coming in to backfill all of the jobs and services, even with automation, everything that we need. When we run out of resources at some point, in theory, that's one possible route, but based on everything I've read, at least, we've been nowhere near that. And as we move forward, we become more efficient. Anyways, this is less about whether or not population can go on forever or how big can a population get. It's really about the fact that it's a mathematically proven thing that we don't have the population. Neotronus? The more educated, financially set we become, the less children these countries seem to produce, especially in the West. Yep. Steven Pinker's written a good bit about it. I don't know, there's at least a handful of books that sort of get into how that winds up working. But again, check out that podcast, Mysterious Universe, and look for the Decivilization one. Because what's happened is everything's so on demand and everything's so interwoven. We see that with supply chain issues that we're having now. Just wait until this all gets exacerbated. So the guy may be wrong, but his premise is basically that the last 20 years are as good as it's going to get for at least 50 or 70 years. Everything that we're seeing unraveling at the moment is going to continue. So anyways, enjoy that podcast. We'll move to a new topic now. We'll wrap up Belfaster. Mentioning you should try turkey sometime. Yeah, I've done a number of turkeys over the years, and I've loved them every single time. Oh, and if you like audiobooks, the person reading this audiobook that's referenced in here, This one. You might find it annoying. When I've researched the author, he's definitely I don't think it's this guy's reading it. Let me double check. Anyways, I was listening to it. Who reads it? Does it say? Maybe he reads it. I don't know. I haven't heard him talk. He seems like a fairly serious dude, but there's a lot of like tongue-in-cheek and puns and stuff like that. And the person that reads this audiobook is like very expressive, so it's actually a super easy listen. But yeah, so basically he goes through sort of the beginning of history and how that built civilization and the key factors for building civilizations and blah blah, blah, and then it's the big build up as to then what happens or how he believes it's going to unravel. So listen to the podcast first. They give you a nice overview, and then boom. Oh, sorry, I interrupted myself. Belfaster. So smoke it for a few hours until it looks like a pretty cooked turkey. Then transfer it to pan, pack it with butter, wrap the whole package in foil, put it back in, took its temperature 165, if you remember correctly. Best turkey you ever had in life. There's an Aaron Franklin video on YouTube. Perfect, cool. Yeah, I got a new toy for that as well. I got one of those Bluetooth thermometers that's that gives you both the ambient temperature and then the temperature, internal temperature, and allows you to sort of monitor everything. It made it a little bit better. Belfast, I think there's two bigger problems. One, the McDonald's blueberry smoothie problem. McDonald's test kitchen made this. Tested great. Come to find out, there are enough blueberries on the face of the planet for that to be sustainable. So basically, you ship getting too big and turning too slow for its own good. Well, and then on the ship, just have it require a very large crew, and then have that crew start to retire, and then don't replace the crew as it retires, and see what starts to happen. I mean, shit, man. I've got a vacation coming up in July. I'm gonna be in the U.S. for 11 days, or 10 days. And it's crazy because I'm watching the news now, and like there are 35,000 flights canceled in the U.S. last weekend. So, not enough pilots. I wonder why. Belfaster said. And then the second problem is society in general is too slow to react to, well, basically anything. Things that made sense to do, like the Intercontinental Railroad. Individual cities struggles with a project like that, much less building something across the entire country for the greater good. Yeah. So, in the meantime, let's make ourselves a video game, and then hopefully, if people like what we're doing, we'll have a little bit of a job security, even if everything's going to hell. And you guys can just stay indoors, hunker down, get some food delivered, play Monsters and Memories. Alright, that's me segueing back into business. Even though in theory, this is just the stream. It doesn't necessarily have to be us making a cool video game on stream. It could just be us bullshitting, if you're okay with that. But I got the feeling you want to see video game stuff. That's why this is not in the IRL category or just talking or whatever. I have Hell Let Loose. I do. And I've played it a total of twice now. I played it once with Hashpipe. So our dear buddy and friend and community member here, forever homie, Hashpipe. We were trying to get some time together, you know, like an evening a week to try to play We were playing Divinity Original Sin 2 because I hadn't played it before. And it just, with everything going on, schedule kept not aligning. And then we finally, he had time and I had time. We were going to play the other night, like last week, I think. And then he told me that he was playing, so he was playing HLL, I guess is the easier way to say it, and was telling me how much he liked it, because I was talking about the dynamics with like bucket respawn and how arcadey and kind of fun Battlefield 1942 was when it first came out, and how it wasn't so serious and like, oh my god, drama, blah blah blah, like intense. And then he told me he was playing this, and I'd heard about it before. It's been out for a while, huh? Heard about it before, but I hadn't played it, so we hopped into that instead. I just grabbed it real quick and downloaded it. Boom. Immediately hopped in and had such a fun time running around with him. I've only played it one other time, like the other morning, for like an hour. And that's all I've played of it so far. I like playing Medic. Medic's kind of cool. And then other than that, I think I've only played like Medic, Infantry, and Machine Gunner. So yeah, if you guys enjoy it and you play, maybe I'd feel less guilty. Less guilty playing with y'all than just like taking time to play it. Goblin said manning a tank with 2 uncoordinated friends is probably the most fun you've had. I have not. I don't think I've played a Stalingrad map yet. No. Very minimal with feedback you get. So many FPS games are like arcade games throwing points and ultra kill. Ultra kill! And all kinds of crazy light shows when you hit or kill somebody. Love that it has. Little to no hit indicators. Hey, Keeps. Yeah. So keep in mind, I'm putting these in so that we've got a little bit of feedback. I don't expect that these are our forever animations. Pettit said, haven't played in a while. That'd be down. Nice. Yeah, it's fun because it's not a very, it doesn't, it's not like there's any expectation you got to be awesome when you play it. It's just chaos, kind of. So I tossed in a couple animations just so that we can get some more feedback in when we're playing. So here's just a quick attack. Basic get hit. And a death that it's got issues. I know it's got issues, but it's okay. It's not our forever animation. I'm gonna start using that for all sorts of stuff. It's not our forever insert whatever. Why does he flip over? I kept trying to make it make sense with physics, but it won't. It doesn't make sense, but bugs die on their back. I don't give a shit. I don't care what you say. I just want him to die on his back. I looked and the EQ beetle Clicknick, it just flips over backwards. He just like goes, wah! So anti-gravity beetle, Sevian, Listen, it's not anti-gravity. I swear, I put logic into it. I swear I did, right? Like, so he gets hit. Ouch, right? So it's kind of like the get hit. It's kind of like get hit, right? So get hit is here. Fecal finger painting said, "Yo, that's a real nice dung beetle you got there, bruv." Actually, I didn't even say it as creepy as I heard it when I read it. Yo, that's a real nice dung beetle you got there, bruv. So, anyways, he gets hit here. He shakes it off a little bit. He's like, all right, I'm still back in this. Right? But in this case, he can't shake it off. You executed too hard. Have him turn on the initial hop or have him hop again on the turn and it will be good. So the idea was like he's coming up and his legs give out and so he just like, he takes a nap. He's like, I don't got this actually. I don't. Okay, maybe I'll just lay on my side for a second. No, I'm a beetle. Shit, my back's heavy. Okay. Beetle heaven. So I'm gonna maybe we'll come back and tweak this in a little bit. But for now, it's like one of those things that it hopefully it's good enough for playtesting. Just because it's been so much fun, like going in and playtesting, I just want to get a little bit more feedback in. Beetle Valhalla, yeah. Tonight I dine in Valhalla. So, yeah, some more twitching. I tried to get little twitches and stuff in different places, but or at least like have things move on their own a little bit. Each leg's moving a little bit differently and stuff. So it's like so, yeah. Well, I'll do this, or I'll just basically I'll get back in my lane. I'll hand this over to the art dudes and let them prettify it. Big ass, can his shell split and guts spew out? Goblin, or sorry, Keebs, no. I move most bugs outside as well. Jasmine thinks I'm a weirdo because of it, but I don't like to kill things that I don't need to kill for, you know, karmic reasons. But then, you know, if something's gotta go, it's gotta go. So we got that, and we got Chomp. And then, now that I see him, I think you could offset to the right first and recenter. Does that make sense? Maybe stream is it? I think, yeah, we can hop on a, we can either hop on a, in Slack, like a huddle or something and get it in a bit, probably. Or we could do it, after stream easily. So let me also open. And usually I'm not deflecting anybody's feedback when you guys give it. I'm kind of like, what do I do? What do I do? That's a good idea. I don't know how to do that. I just beep, boop, boop, push buttons, see what happens. That's why I get most of my work done off stream. Except those 1,000-leg centipedes, they mean to bomb your shoe. 1,000-leg centipedes, the millipedes, I'll move out. They're nice. A centipede, like the ones with the long, sketchy legs. Flamethrower. Those orange-headed ones in Texas, too. Spiders get the hard goodbye from you? Not me. I like spiders. They're our friends. They eat the other bugs. Was this in the last one? So, we just got that simple bite. Did you know those house centipedes live around 5 to 6 years? Golden gloves. Oh my god, that's horrible. Never kill indoor spiders. Spiders, friends. Exactly. So we got a little attack here. We don't have the kick. Jasmine asked me if I'd made a kick. That's great when Jasmine's like, did you add a kick yet? So we'll have to do that. Let's see more Black Widows and snakes. It seems messed up. Yeah, so Black Widows... The Black Widows and Brown Recluse are on the exception list. I'm not... Antonia's Block Party said there's a saying in Arizona that there are two kinds of houses. Houses with scorpions and houses that don't know they have scorpions. My house in Austin was out in the hill country, and we got so many scorpions in there, but my ex and I, she had 4 cats. I'll say that she had, since she claimed them all. And this poor scorpion did not really stand a chance in our house. How do you T-pose the snake? Secretly, Robin, that's a good question. I am not an art expert. You have to refer to Zukin for that. You can find Zukin's stream here on this list of streamers. Highly recommended. Claimed them on her taxes. No, she just claimed them. I don't know if she was able to claim them on her taxes. My friend gave me some concrete pavers. I went to pick them up, and when I was unloading them from my car, I saw the fattest Black Widow dart across my car. This thing was the size of $50. It was insane. Oh. They're supposed to be solitary, but when I was in basic training, we were doing some contact drills, and so I was running off with my battle buddy. We were running off, and we hopped over this big log, and that had kind of been uprooted. And this is in Georgia, Fort Benning, and I swear, I guess it was a nest. I guess they have nests, right? Because we hop over this log, and we're sitting there, and we're like chilling, trying to hear if the people we were moving away from were like, it spotted us and we're coming or whatever. And I look over, and there's just a cluster of Black Widows, and it's just like, oh geez, okay, let's get out of here. I'd rather get laser tagged and be done for the day than bit by one of these. When I lived in southern China and Taiwan, we'd get these massive flying cockroaches often. Those things were tanks. They definitely got the boot smack, Golden Glove says. Yeah, when I've lived in Florida, we'd get them as well. We'd call them palmetto bugs. They live in the palmetto trees. So I got snake attack we were already looking at. File open. Snake get hit. That was the one I think we started the other day, and you guys had a bunch of feedback on, and this is about as good as I could get it. Makes him, he's a little bit more bendy this time around, but a little bit smoother. So take it or leave it for now. Interact with resource nodes, spawn spiders. We could probably do that pretty easy. Got those in South Carolina too when you lived there, Justin? Yep. Palmetto bugs, water bugs. Went into a spring house one year, turned on the light inside, looked up and saw the entire ceiling was covered with hand-sized wolf spiders. Slammed the door behind me and they all dropped. Wait, you slammed the door while you were inside and then they dropped? And then the light went out. Dum dum dum. What else we got? Oh, we got a death for him. Thought water bugs had a sting or something. Cockroaches can bite you, I think. I thought. Didn't slam the door. It was closing when I turned on the light from me entering. Oh no. They ambushed you. What's up, Hellsridge? We're just talking about bugs and stuff. Have you seen the game Grounded has an arachnophobia safe mode in accessibility settings? Thought that was neat. That's cute. That's cute. So, this is a question mark. He's asking, who killed me? So that's what we got. I don't know if I made anything else. Got the beetle stuff, got the spider stuff. Was gonna tackle some rat stuff, but not locomotion. Locomotion's difficult. Does the snake idol have a slight tail sway? I don't know. Let me see. And I realized now that I was animating the beetle stuff off of the T-pose and not off of any sort of idol, so it may be wrong. No, it doesn't. He doesn't have a slight tail sway. He's got this going on up front. Tail sway, that shouldn't be hard, and I could do that really quick. He shows you. Can we have a named snake that has a boot on its tail? No. You'll probably get a snake kick, but you're not gonna get a boot on a tail. That's too far, guys. We're a very serious MMORPG. Isn't that right, Trippy Chris? Damn it, you beat me already. Nick's on point today. I was too busy talking smack to him to click on the name properly. I right-clicked it instead of just clicking it. That's what threw me off. So Nick wins. Okay. So I mentioned before I wanted to watch this video with you guys today that Zukin posted in Slack. I don't know if you guys have you seen it yet. I really haven't done a lot of watching videos in here and talking about them, so I feel a little weird about it. But I guess that's a thing that people do. I'm a real streamer now. You're a real boy now. This one. Have you guys seen this? It's 13 hours old. Is this how you do it on streams? Or you just make it big behind you? I watch so much Asmongold. Hold on, let me see what Asmongold does. I gotta go figure this out. He's gonna stream a new bootleg movie in its entirety, isn't he? I once watched a bootleg version of the movie. I think it was Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was I got for like $2 while it was still in the theater in DC, and it was funny because it was so poorly filmed. And at some point, you see a person get up and walk in front of the screen. It was so bad, but it was absolutely worth the money. The movie was horrible, but it was kind of cool knowing that it was still in there. Let me see. Asmongold stuff. How does he set up? He's a pro at this stuff, so I want to watch him react to something, get some pointers real quick. No, it wasn't The Running Man. That would have been fantastic, but that was kind of out of the theater when I was in the army, believe it or not. This is the one time I don't like immediately have a video of him watching somebody's video. Okay, I see how he does it. And then he puts the chat up there as well. Do you guys want should I put the chat up? Anybody watching this VOD is like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Does he not understand how YouTube works, even though he watches it every day? No. That's our video. Cool. So let's do that. We'll make this space a little bit different than what it was, right? Because you need some room to be you. My friend burned me a bootleg copy of The Sixth Sense shortly after it came out. It was a cam, people moving around, but more importantly, it was missing like the last 3 minutes with the big reveal. It was hilarious because when you take it out, it's just a drama basically. And it's funny because you didn't see it in the theater. There was nobody coming out of the theater ruining the reveal for you. No, we're not reacting to Asmongold reacting to this. So that maybe it's a good idea. Maybe I should just wait and do this another day. We got your chat's at the bottom though. So let me see if I can fix that real quick. And then I'll make the screen disappear. Okay, that probably wasn't the move. Minimize this. Okay. Are you guys wondering why this is taking me so long to figure out? If you are, then welcome to the stream. It's cool that you're new here. If you're wondering why I can't do something like this in, you know, a reasonable amount of time, then you must be new here. You're going to react to the reaction prep. Feel like Tina from Bob's Burgers all of a sudden. Is that big enough? Do you think people are going to be able to read that on that background? It's not really. It looks very small. It looks small and illegible. Not yet, Josh. Calm down. Jeez. You're confused as to what I'm trying to accomplish? I'm trying to get this to where you guys can see it and listen in. And then there's also you guys over here in chat chatting about it. Does that make more sense now? And it's not a big deal. It's just I would like to somewhat kind of get it right. And it sucks because this chat box doesn't have a background, so kind of hard to see. We add this element here, and then this. Then we make this that. Then we close it. We take this over here. We put it right over chat. Then it looks perfect. And we go back up. And I think that'll be good enough for now. Looks pretty janky. Make this bigger. Make this a bit smaller. Make this a bit smaller. Is that the Luckman model? It is the Luckman Ogre model. Yeah, it is. So what are we doing? We're going to watch this video from. It is from Josh Strife Hayes, and it is why old MMOs feel better. And it is 16 minutes long. And so let's see. Let me know if you can hear it.
Long-time MMO players fondly reminisce about the days gone when MMOs were far less optimized than they are now, when the games were more of a struggle to play. The old guard complains about today's modern MMO conveniences like tutorials, fast travel, quest markers, minimaps, group find.
Nick's got a great question. Wouldn't transparent be better? How important is it that people can actually read what's being said? Because now look at that. You guys make the call. I don't usually do this. So if we rewind it. All right, so we'll do this. So we got the volume turned up. And tad big, the chat box. How about now? Can anybody even read it now? The anticipation is literally killing you. I'm sorry. If you're a spider, then I would feel bad about that. Oh no, my karma. Okay, we're good now, right? So it sounds good. One more sound check.
Many long-time MMO players fondly reminisce about the days gone when MMOs were far less optimized than they are now, when the
How was that? We're good? Good. Okay. So let's check out this video. Watched it earlier. Zukin posted it in Slack. Watched it, and I was actually I was surprised because I know Josh has had a couple different takes on this theme, both in terms of like modern player expectations for design. You know, how much of it's nostalgia, sort of what. Anyways, he's had a lot of different takes on sort of the classic or retro MMO thing. So I was actually pleasantly surprised with this one. Not that the other videos were bad or anything.
Many long-time MMO players fondly reminisce about the days gone when MMOs were far less optimized than they are now, when the games were more of a struggle to play. The old guard complains about today's modern MMO conveniences like tutorials, fast travel, quest markers, minimaps, group finders, and the lack of need to communicate. Many say MMOs have lost the social soul they had so long ago and simply aren't as memorable. However, many of the modern advancements people blame were added as a result of players directly asking for them. Is it possible to design a game to be worse and yet in doing so actually make the player's long-term experience of it better? Can giving the player a less optimized, less immediately fun experience actually result in them remembering the game more fondly, and indeed even recommending it to players precisely because of the fact it is less optimized?
What do you guys think? So this is something we've hit on quite a bit. Yes, yup. Gun Popo, hello. Tampa Esports, I think absolutely. Gun Popo said no. Zoidberg, how dare they claim we wear rose-colored or rose-tinted glasses? All right.
The answer is both yes and no. It's a
yes and no. You're both correct and incorrect. Tampa Esports said friction is so important. Optimized for what? Well, he'll get into that. Actually, we'll see.
Paradox of adversity within game design, and it's one of the main reasons modern MMOs feel the way they do. It's also what Blizzard was trying to get at when they said, you think you do, but you don't. So let's discuss the actual psychology behind it. As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel going. More information on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes. I've been making videos about MMORPG design for years, and one thing that I hear repeatedly from both old players who played the game back in the day and new players who are just discovering them is that older MMOs were better. Now, better is a very subjective word. It's hard to define, it's different for everyone. But with so many old games still online, like the original EverQuest, or classic versions of modern games being released, like World of Warcraft Classic, or old school RuneScape, there must be some element of design, some choice, beyond just nostalgia, some reason people keep going back to older designed games. Over the years, I've tried to make videos explaining MMO design, breaking down design elements, comparing choices. I've covered the idea of the meta, the chosen one narrative trope, fast travel, endgame, abundance of MMOs themselves, microtransactions, graphics, level scaling, but now I think I've managed to distill it down to the simplest, most base reason. I'm going to call it the paradox of adversity within game design. It's not the catchiest title, I know, but it explains why making something better for the player in the short term can sometimes remove its ability to have a long-term impact. It's all to do with the human experience of overcoming adversity. Consider the...
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad title, actually, that I came up with there. So, Gun Popo, thank you for the follow. But yeah, so I wasn't sure what to expect with the video, but as soon as he started going down this route, it actually made a lot of sense. To your point, Goblin, weird framing of the argument by saying better design. Yeah, well, but I think he makes up for that in saying that it's subjective, right?
The following. If something, say a task or a challenge, is immediately easy, it will have a high number of people attempt it and complete it, because it's accessible to a greater number of people, and because a great number of people tend to enjoy easier things, the task will see a relatively high retention rate. You could consider things like sitting on the sofa binge watching a TV show, or ordering a takeaway, getting dressed in whatever was lying on the floor, calling off a planned meeting because it's raining and you don't want to go. It's low effort, but immediate reward. On the opposite end of the spectrum are very hard tasks with very high rates of immediate failure, or a great deal of input effort required. Fewer people will even attempt it, let alone succeed. And because people don't enjoy failure, many will quit if the first few attempts don't succeed. This could be leaving the sofa to go to a gym, applying for a much harder job than you've currently got, cooking a full 3-course meal from scratch, dressing up in smart or complex clothes, or attending a meeting if the circumstances are against you and you don't want to go. It could be learning a language or training for a difficult sports event such as a triathlon. It's very high effort with a very delayed reward. The paradox is the immediate reward for the low effort input is never as high or as satisfying as the delayed reward for the high input process. The intensity of the reward and the long-term value of it is directly related to the complexity and difficulty to achieve the process. Put simply, if something is easy to do, you'll feel good in the process but not care about the reward in the long term. You likely won't even create a memory of either the process or the reward because it's nothing special. But if something is difficult to do, you'll likely dislike the process of doing it, but then the long-term reward of having done it will have more intrinsic value to you, and the memory you create will be much more intense. This is human nature. We want the easy and immediate, but we place much more long-term value on the completion of difficulty. Nobody wants to struggle, but everyone wants the feeling and satisfaction earned from struggling and succeeding. We don't enjoy the process of overcoming adversity, but we do grow from it. Indeed, the moments of unplanned struggle often become some of our fondest memories. It's very important to understand that the word struggle in this context is not life-changing trauma. It's not extremely negative experiences that you wish you could remove. It means less than optimal, unexpected. It means more difficult than you originally anticipated. It's not extremely damaging, it's challenging within the context of the game. If you go camping with your friends and everything is absolutely fine, you'll likely have an okay trip, but if on the second night it begins to absolutely pour with rain and you discover there's a rip in the tent, you will likely hate it in the moment, but look back on it fondly, laughing with the group as you all reminisce the struggle.
Tinfoil Hat says, disagree that difficult things are unpleasant. But I think he says they can be unpleasant. It's not necessarily to say that all difficult things are unpleasant, but then again, there are those difficult things that we do and sometimes really enjoy. Like if you were to ask me, do you enjoy working out? Or when he was talking about this stuff earlier, so many of the times I was just thinking about like training jujitsu over the years, especially at the beginning where it was just like horrific, right? But I've got so many good memories of, those different, the growth that comes from that. But man, there are so many days where I was on the way to the gym, or it's the same thing like working out or whatever. It's, do I really want to do this today? I don't want to do this today. Oh my God, it's going to suck. Every run I do, every run I've learned that the first mile always sucks. I'm 47. So like I have to actually, remind myself of the fact that like the first mile sucks. It's always a random pain, some weird shit. And then after a mile, I get warmed up and go. And it's kind of like that. I've always felt that way about a number of things where it's like, oh man, I don't want to do this today. And then, after I do it, I'm like, oh man, that was so good. So, you had a friend who's a manifestation of that. He absolutely loathed every game he played for thousands of hours. Yeah, there was a saying in the army that, and I'll clean it up a little bit. A complaining soldier is a happy soldier. Gunpopo said, you think making the grind fun makes the reward less valuable, but it's not like Minecraft, for example. No. I think you can make something fun and have it be valuable, but there's something to be said for certain personality types. And again, I don't think this is for everybody, but There's something to be said for certain personality types that enjoy they enjoy the result of something that was a challenge or distinct time investment, and partially because they know other people won't do it. Adversity creates memorable experiences. You don't remember the mundane days. Correct. And Nick said, and it varies from game to game and what kind of mechanics and systems are involved. But yeah, more tedious and unpolished doesn't have to be absolutely awful gameplay, especially if there's ways of overcoming some of this via player and social interaction. Yeah.
Struggle you overcame. It's often the moments of struggle that we look back on and smile about. We defeated the enemy and we see value in that. If you ask older MMO players some of their best memories, they'll often tell you about all the adversity they overcame, standing selling items in the EverQuest tunnel or the Falador Bank, completing quests without guides, phoning friends in real life to organise a raid. There exists in design a Goldilocks zone of player difficulty, where something is not too easy and not too hard, it's just right. You're not going to frustrate the player and prevent them from finishing the game, but when they do finish the game, they're going to feel an immense satisfaction that they have overcome a perfectly balanced challenge. So how does this all relate back to MMORPGs? Well, remember when Blizzard told you think you do, but you don't?
And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't. Remember when you had to like spam cities and say, need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon. You don't want to do that.
It's funny. I wonder if the delivery on this was less smug, if people would have responded in the same way.
Here's what they actually meant. It's two elements of human psychology combining. The abundance of choice, meaning we don't stick at one thing when it gets challenging and can easily switch, and the value we gain from overcoming a challenge. Many years ago, there weren't as many MMOs, so you have a relatively captured audience. If you didn't like one game, you could go to another, but you'd very quickly cycle through all possible games. The player base didn't have great variety, and a lot of these MMOs were difficult. The players would face adversity in all games, such as no group finders, meaning you had to talk to people, and creating a group could take a while.
Imagine your Nana said it. If my Nana made that statement, she would add the word dumbass at the end. You think you do, but you don't, dumbass. That's how my Nana would say it. She's a very special woman. Keebs, I agree.
While no quest markers on the minimap, or minimaps themselves, or even in your journal, so you had to write down NPCs' names and locations. No market boards or global trading systems, so it was player-to-player trade only. No tutorial, meaning you were placed directly into the world and you relied on the community to help you, and many games came on physical CDs and took hours to install,
yeah, she is very honest,
with the process often going wrong. This isn't the game itself, but it's still part of an adversity experience. Adversity means a difficult or unpleasant situation, and overcoming it is a good feeling. Now, the adversity in a game doesn't just need to be the boss design or the gameplay. It can be the meta elements, such as having to play a game without a guide, being unable to switch servers and play with your friends, corpse runs, experience debt, almost cryptic levels of description for both quest guides and item descriptions. Older games had a lot of adversity within them. And as we know, while people like the sense of accomplishment which comes with overcoming adversity, they don't always like adversity in the moment. People quit difficult things while they're still in the difficult bit. With older MMOs, this wasn't a major problem for player retention because the players simply didn't have many other places to go. The end result was a hemmed-in player base with a sparse selection of MMOs, all of which had heavy amounts of adversity, and your choice was overcome it or stop playing. And if you stopped playing, then you simply stopped caring. And if you did overcome it, you felt intense personal pride. But as more MMOs were made,
I don't know that I agree with that 100% though. That comes up a lot, like the idea that there weren't a lot of MMOs back in the day. So if you didn't like it, whatever, you'd still deal with it. But there are a lot of people that were coming in. They're coming in from other games. They're playing multiplayer death matches or whatever, they could go back to those games. And there was almost a steady like stream of MMOs coming out in the early days of MMOs up until some of the conveniences started getting added in. I don't know that the not a lot of choices thing is necessarily accurate. There were a ton of games to play. There were more multiplayer and co-op games coming online at the time. There were plenty of MMOs, and each one was finding ways to kind of one up the other, all the way up until WoW came out, right? So I don't know that there was like this huge gap. If anything, when we were looking, I mean, because we would see it in our concurrent user counts, and then we didn't really see it in our sub counts, but you would always see dips when the next either MMO came out, or some big game came out, or an expansion came out for another MMO or whatever. So I don't think it's as much as people were just sort of trapped. I think they generally enjoyed it, or if they didn't, they'd already churned. So, yeah. Anyway.
Made and player choice increased, the designers saw both opportunities and issues. If they made the player face too much adversity, the players wouldn't push on because they had no other choice, they would leave because now they did have choice. And this put designers into a strange position. They needed to make the systems the players would experience immediately very easy to prevent the players leaving, but in doing so, they were reducing the potential.
So, let me go back, because maybe me breaking this up kind of screwed up the flow on this, but I want to listen to something else he says here, because I don't know if I feel that's accurate.
The designers saw both opportunities and adversity. They don't always like adversity in the moment. People quit difficult things while they're still in the difficult bit. With older MMOs, this wasn't a major problem for player retention because the players simply didn't have many other places to go. The end result was a hemmed-in player base with a sparse selection of MMOs, all of which had heavy amounts of adversity, and your choice was overcome it or stop playing. And if you stopped playing, then you simply stopped caring. And if you did overcome it, you felt intense personal pride. But as more MMOs were made and player choice increased, the designers saw both opportunities and issues. If they made the player face too much adversity, the players wouldn't push on because they had no other choice, they would leave because now they did have choice. And this put designers into a strange position. They needed to make the systems the players would experience immediately very easy to prevent the players leaving, but in doing so, they were reducing the potential long-term connection the player would have to that system because no one remembers the easy accomplishments. Take the group finder. Without it, players are forced to talk and communicate and connect. Bonds will form, friendships.
All right, so maybe I just understood him wrong on that. Hold on a sec, I'll catch up on chat. But so maybe I'm overstating his statement on people leaving, but essentially, at the time, I remember there was a lot of things coming together at once, like for us. And he's speaking about more than just like EQ. Yeah, Rev, I was about to say So you said he needs to say the most players. Sounds like his points are all about chasing the most money. So what we found was we were adding these sort of like convenience elements in EQ, not because, well, it wound up being experimentation to see if we could accomplish other things, right? Like, so adding a graveyard in EQ during pop was less about people complaining about not getting their corpses because we put it in raids first. And it was more about us wanting to be able to make certain types of raids that potentially could reset cleaner. And we wanted corpses out of the way. We didn't want the corpse run potentially re-triggering the raid or keeping people in there. We thought we could potentially make more difficult raids if we could get corpses out of there. It's like, all right, so you've wiped, potentially start to get after a certain amount of time, instead of you going in and just rewiping, it's like get the trash out of the way and let someone come in and try to do it that could potentially do it. The whole plane of knowledge thing, honestly, you know, and I know people keep remembering this differently, but hop onto any TLP and tell me what those servers kind of look like in terms of low end population. We just looked at the numbers, and what we had was people coming into MMOs for the first time, and they were basically empty in all of the old zones. So there's no wizard or druid porting people around, right? Like, it just didn't exist. And so it was like, how do we consolidate players into one spot so that we have player friction? And then basically, let's just make that a center hub so it's got utility to get you to the cities if you did want to go to the other cities, or if your friend made a dwarf and you made whatever, a barbarian, you could get together faster and play, because it was more just a condition of the population spreading out and being stratified at the time, right? So some of that was put in. But I would say the thing that I was thinking about as he was and as he was talking about this morning, there is the point though of one of the reasons why we changed the game that much was because we were still trying to bring new players in, and we didn't really have opportunity to like sit down and basically take the time needed to really analyze the problem and look for a different solution. Zoidberg asked, instead of making plane of knowledge, do you think there should have been a server consolidation? It wouldn't have fixed the problem. So it wouldn't have fully fixed the problem, and I believe it would have created other problems, right? Because we would have had to do a mass server consolidation, which the servers at the time we still had 450,000 subs. So it was still, at the time, our subscriber base was as big as it had, ever been. I think it capped out like 450,000 to 500,000. But all of those players were distributed so far away from content, and there's no utility in the cities. There's nothing really pulling you back to the starting cities. So yeah, we could have consolidated everything, which would have pissed off all the high-end guilds. It would have basically made it so that there's probably even, like impossible conflict over certain things. So it would have been a massive disruption to the player base that was established, and it wouldn't have solved the problem for the low-end people. And so, I mean, I guess you could we do an inverted pyramid consolidation or something? We could not allow, I think we did like recommended servers or something. Right? Like, please go to this server. I've worked on MMOs since then that have had better automation and like putting new players into like basically load balancing in a sense. So yeah, so that's kind of what we were facing at the time. And so it wasn't, I guess I'm contradicting myself. We were doing that stuff to create a better experience for new customers who have never had the experience before. And so, but the better experience was basically a recreation of the original experience that the old customers had had. We weren't necessarily trying to dumb the game down. Plane of knowledge solves a problem that should have never existed. Yes, it's true. In theory, the old world should have always retained its value, and players would have always been available in those areas for new players to experience. I mean, I think that's one solution. Always wondered, instead of making new content in the expansion, making new content within the existing world, like a Fortnite season. So that's another great point. But the mandate from management was that we needed to make expansions, because expansions could go on shelves. Expansions maintained, so box expansions put a box on the Best Buy shelf. That makes Best Buy happy because they get their cut. And so if we want to put an EQ2 box on the Best Buy shelf later, or a DC Universe Online box on the Best Buy shelf, then we need to give them an EverQuest expansion box, or maybe 2 a year that they get their cut from, to sort of, maintain that relationship. And that was what was controversial about Legacy of Akasha. There was no box that went on their shelves, and they were kind of like, hey, what's going on with this? Zalbag 101. Good morning. So there's that sort of understanding, when we're sitting at E3, we're doing demos and stuff at E3, the vice president of sales would come in with the people from these brick and mortar shops to show them all the cool stuff that's going to go on their shelves to make them money, right? Because we're there to make them money just as much as we're there to make us money, right? And for us, not getting all of the money from an expansion was fine, because we'd sell, even if you sell 2 expansions a year and you get 100% sort of uptake on it or whatever, we're still making all of our money off of the subscribers. Zolbag 101 said, hey, your game's looking great. Thank you. So mandates were probably so frustrating to work around. I mean, but it's a job, right? Like that's, if you don't own the company, and you don't own all of the company, then there's mandates. And so, that's driving a lot of it. And so instead of going, hey, EverQuest is making $80 to $90 million a year, with just the subscription, right? And you can take operating expenses out of that, and it's still a shitload of money, unless your operating expenses are basically, unless you're paying for a company of 500, and 7 studios or 5 studios or whatever it was. So if that money was just going back into EQ for the most part, then I think all sorts of stuff, and I think there's a lot of hindsight as well, right? Like if we knew that the game was going to be around for 20 years and blah, 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 then they probably would have invested differently, and then it could have been more of a, investment in sort of some of the stuff that we were doing with like the zone revamps and things of that nature and some of the events. But so if we think that's the right route, then that's a benefit of hindsight, right? So that's what we're doing now. Anyway, bit of a tangent, but yeah.
The players would experience immediately very easy to prevent the players leaving, but in doing so, they were reducing the potential long-term connection the player would have to that system, because no one remembers the easy accomplishments. Take the group finder. Without it, players are forced to talk and communicate and connect. Bonds will form, friendships, rivalries. You have to time your gameplay sessions to your guild. The act of forming the group becomes a satisfying ritual itself, and when the group is formed, it will likely stick together, because the process of forming another is difficult. The process of forming the group is the adversity, and the feeling.
What was EQ's planned lifespan? 3 years? My understanding from back then, and then the understanding that I think we've arrived at from having the different guests come on, it was not planned for more than a year. So Kunark was kind of oh crap, we need to add more to this. If you go to the Kevin McPherson interview on my YouTube, or actually I think I've got a link there. So if you go to the Kevin McPherson interview, is basically the way he explained it was the team was like, oh shit, we need to keep this thing going. Because the original idea I thought was they said if they get like 60 to, it was like, I've heard between like 30 or 40 to 60,000 subs for a year, then the game's profitable and we're done. Then we make a new game, right? Because they didn't, I think, understand the longevity there. So it was something like that. So the cool thing was EQ was extremely profitable almost immediately, right? Like it was extremely profitable straight out of the gate. So it was like money hats for, folks, and investment into all sorts of other projects, and, the Variant Racing team line of parking spaces right outside the building. we wound up buying like the whole cul-de-sac and shit in San Diego, and it's just rapid growth. And that was only over the course of a couple of years. We're constantly growing. And then after constantly growing for a few years, then we were constantly having rolling layoffs. But yeah, so wild to think they expected EQ to be a one-off. I mean, I guess there was just I don't know. It's weird because it's not like they weren't muds in other, you know what I mean? Like yeah, it's weird. But so Kunark wasn't planned per that discussion, and Velius was just a continuation of that same thing of like, oh, we need more after Kunark. So is that when they dug up the street and installed new cable lines like they ever raised? Oh, I wasn't there for that. I don't know. Somebody probably mentions it in one of the interviews. Yeah.
Feeling of having formed one is now substantial. But then the group finder comes in to remove the adversity of forming the group, and in doing so also removes the feeling of reward of forming it. It's positive for players with very little time, but negative for players who value the process of making the group. The lack of quest markers on your minimap, or indeed the lack of a detailed map at all, or the lack of fast travel, means you now faced adversity of talking to every NPC, finding a quest, memorizing the world, learning the lay of the land, or becoming friends with a class who could teleport you around. The act of exploring and progressing was the adversity. That was the challenge. It wasn't easy, but for those who could do it, it was fulfilling. Then the minimaps, teleport spells, fast travel, and icons and quest helpers and auto run came along because players were leaving the game before even finding the quests due to the difficulty of the process, and it had to be made easier to increase player retention, or the players would leave for a game which was doing it. Again, in doing so, you are removing the adversity.
So that point is interesting, right? Because that gets to sort of the business point that I think came to mind when I watched this the first time.
PC, finding a quest, memorizing the world, learning the lay of the land, or becoming friends with a class who could teleport you around. The act of exploring and progressing was the adversity. That was the challenge. It wasn't easy, but for those who could do it, it was fulfilling. Then the minimaps, teleport spells, fast travel, and icons and quest helpers and auto run came along because players were leaving the game before even finding the quests due to the difficulty of the process, and it had to be made easier to increase player retention, or the players would leave for a game which was doing it. Again.
So this gets into the, and I don't know that my point of view is necessarily the right one or that I've got the right answer on this, but this is something I've thought about for quite a while. The idea that every player needs to be retained and not having kind of a good idea in mind and potentially good metrics in mind for what constitutes success, and then realizing that there can be a clear marker of success, that just because you go past that marker does not then mean that you have to keep raising the bar with regards to like financial success or player base size or whatever. Hey John, especially it's almost like if you say we need to have 30,000 subscribers and then we're good, we're very successful, right? So we have a small game, we have to have 30,000 subscribers, and that actually puts us in a nice spot where there's profit, blah blah blah. I'm just grabbing that number. So if that's kind of been the plan, what I've seen happen at companies is they go, okay, that's our target. We need to have 30,000 subscribers. And so then if you miss that, if you get 10,000 subscribers, then it's very easy to kind of look and go, oh shit, something's not right. You know, something is wrong, and we need to basically figure out why there's that delta and see how we can close that gap, right? On the flip side, I think it's just as easy to screw up a studio if you plan for 30,000 subscribers and all of a sudden you hit 50. Because when that happens, I think people start going, oh shit, look at us, and, you know, break out the money hats and don't necessarily think, all right, what is a responsible way to deal with the success that we're seeing that is above what our target was? And what winds up happening is we go, oh, okay, we planned for 30, we hit 50. So let's go out and buy all the things that when we were getting ready to go, we're very lean and we're like, oh shit, we're very budget conscious and everything's line item, like, oh man, we've got to be careful because we don't have cash. And then all of a sudden we get that money. It's kind of like the people that win the lottery, the various like reports or videos or whatever is so and so won $20 million at the Mega Millions in Tallahassee, Florida. Let's check in on him a year later and see where he is now. Oh, I spent all the money, right? It's like there's this, what I've seen happen firsthand at least a couple times, and I don't want to get too specific, but what I see happen is that first game actually outpaces the original measures of success. And then, like you were just saying, I think in there, let me see. Anyway, it outpaces the original measure of success, and so then I think there's a bit of like ego or whatever. It's like, oh shit, we planned for 30, we got 50, we can clearly get 70 or 100. Let's push. All right, and so changes start being made, money starts getting spent. Inevitably, the studio will go from the 30 people that made it to 50 people all of a sudden. Some of it's justified because it's like, okay, well, we need to have more customer service or something, right? But that's not always the case. What winds up happening is, everybody on our team on M&M wears like 10 hats. And so all of a sudden, and instead of Nick wearing 10 hats and Goblin wearing 10 hats and Pattis wearing 10 hats and Zukin and Ali and everybody, what we go is, I'm going to take these hats off now that we've got the cash to do it. And we're going to get 9 more people. I'm going to wear 1 hat, or we're going to get like 5 more people and I'm only going to wear the 5 hats or whatever. And sometimes that's good, right? Because like people have been overloaded or whatever. But now all of a sudden you go from having a 30-person team to like an 80-person team or 70-person team, which then, so now you have a dilution of the company culture that made the game. You've got people start to get more siloed. People start to get more cliquish. You need a layer of middle management. I mean, even with 30 people, there's middle management to some degree, right? But then all of a sudden it's just like, at 50 people, that's, so let's say 60 people. If you made a game with 30, which we're 11 people, so 3 times our size, I can only imagine communication issues and all of that stuff. And then it's like, Goblin, sorry, you can't touch that anymore. You got to focus strictly on concept art. You can't have input here, or you can't touch that, or blah, blah, blah. And then, right? Like, so there's all that shit that winds up happening. And then it becomes like this beast that has to feed itself. And so what winds up happening is, then you need more subs, and it's sort of self-perpetuating. And the way to get more subs is to retain more people, or to go out and get even more people that aren't necessarily the ones that were originally part of that core that like sort of discovered it. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I'm explaining this well, but I think that has a really sort of underrated, significant factor on what winds up happening with, some of the companies. And then on the flip side, there's just this understanding more and more, I would say in the last 15 years, last 12 years or this belief, not understanding, that in order to be competitive straight out of the gate, we have to make a game of a certain scale. Otherwise, it's not even going to be worth putting out there, right? Like if it doesn't have a couple million subscribers or several million, most of the time an unrealistic number of million, if we don't have 5 to 10 million subs, which is crazy, it's so much money. then it's not worth pursuing. It's not worth investing in, right? Because we want to start seeing like returns of a certain scale immediately. We don't want to grow this thing for 5 years or 10 years. So rather than a company taking a long-term view or investors taking a long-term view and going, hey, if we give you the money to get this thing out in the next 3 years with a smaller team, it's lower risk for us, blah, blah, blah. Do you think it's feasible that you could grow this subscriber base, this community, to be, 10 times the size over the next 5 years or something of that nature? Which if it was true that like EQ was looking for, let's split the difference. Say if they had 50,000 subs, if that was the target, 50,000 subs in a year and they're good, and then they have 500,000 subs within 5 years of that happening, then, right, like that's not a bad target, and that's a decent return on somebody's investment, because if they're only having to invest a few million to get it out the door, and then that game's making 5-6 million a month sort of at that peak, there's a decent amount of profit there, especially if the company's built around the idea of managing that profit in sort of a responsible way and not going, okay, well, how do we make all of the games now to try to get all of the players, right? So you don't need 6 or 7 studios within a 4-year period or a 3-year period. That's insane. Like, how do you even manage that? Like, how do you even maintain any semblance of a company culture? So, so why can't more people just make a good game that's profitable instead of having to keep chasing? There's nothing wrong with profit or chasing money. It's the question is, are there ways to chase the money in a healthy manner, both for the company and for the product and for the community, right? I mean, we tend to look at like a World of Warcraft and then forget about the 10 years of the IP being built up prior to that massive hit. So the thing I look at is, can we build reasonably successful products that establish IP for us, that we nurture over the course of 5 or 10 years, so that then at some point they're so beloved that we can do, really, really incredible things with them based on the situation at the time, right? When Warcraft was being built up, and obviously done well, hugely successful in their own right. Each of those products, like a Diablo, a Warcraft, StarCraft, all of these things are contributing to each other as well, because they're contributing to Blizzard as a brand. It's like, wow, these guys make really wonderful games that each one is strong and iconic IP that allowed them to make the game that was so successful. Then when the situation became MMOs, right? It's like, oh shit, MMOs. Cool, let's make an MMO out of this thing that is already super beloved and reinforced by Diablo, reinforced by the success of StarCraft, right? That are all feeding into the brand. And so, but that's kind of that's a long-term investment. That's a patience game. And I think that's more typically found, I was trying to articulate this, but I don't think I did well on Slack earlier or whatever. But it kind of goes into a different mindset. Like, remember back in the day when like somebody would build a business because they wanted to hand it down to their grandkid or their great grandkid. We're going to build this business, and it's going to be a family business. We're going to run it our way, and we're going to do things that make us take pride in being associated with this business because it is our family name. And I think it's just such a different dynamic when it's, hey, I've got a startup. Can I get seed money from these 5 different, I don't even know, like the XXX Vanguard, BlackRock, whatever, seed incubator, but it's like, it's just, hey, I've got a startup and I need cash and we're going to pursue growth. And so then we're going to turn on the money spigot and you're going to get 10x your return, right? Like the sort of startup bullshit that's out there. And so it's like, as opposed to like, how do we build this thing up? Like from, I think I said like Vanguard XXX. I don't know why there's a XXX in there. I guess we're also getting porno money. I don't know. It's weird. So sorry for that. But, are we getting funded by BlackRock? No. But it was interesting. Like Jagex got bought by the Carlyle Group. They're owned by the, right? I think they're wholly owned by Carlyle, which is interesting. Look them up. So Starburp, T Dallas, aka T Money. What up, dog? Thank you for the follow. Money's got to come from somewhere. All right, the money does have to come from somewhere, or the value that the money is meant to provide has to come from somewhere. So, like, I don't want to make the guys on the team feel weird by saying this, but like, if you look at you can sit and look at what we've been doing with regards to everybody just pitching in their own time, and us bootstrapping it. You can associate a value on that time, right? And so essentially the sweat equity that's gone into this thing, it's worth money. It's why we didn't have to go out and borrow $1 million to get to where we're at in the first year and a half. And so I think the approach can be people pitching in and building it the way we're doing it. It can be, somebody's got the cash to get the ball rolling, and then you can find reasonable investors with people that are sort of long-term in their view on the company. In theory, I don't think it's as possible these days. I think we've burned too many bridges with regards to crowdfunding and things of that nature. There's probably different angles that could be taken there. We haven't done it just because we know what the vibe is, and we also feel an ethical responsibility for showing you that there's a game and going, okay, we want to make more of this, but there really needs to be a game there that is going to be consistent with what you would basically, a game that is consistent with what it's ultimately going to be before we'd even consider something like that. I want to be careful how I say it, but like what I mean is, it's not a demo that's made out of like smoke and mirrors to then go, hey, now give us cash, and then we're going to go back and actually rebuild this thing from scratch in a way that works, right? Like all those things have to be avoided, I think. So anyway, I feel like I've gotten way off course, but we'll keep watching the video, and then for like a minute, and then I'll talk for another 35 minutes. Sorry. But you can watch the whole thing uninterrupted if you go to Josh's YouTube, which I'm sure you are already subscribed to. He's got 583,000 subscribers. Let's see. Trying to find, if I missed an important comment, just say it again and we'll catch up. Cool. It's not a vertical slice, it's an actual game. Well, it's a vertical slice and an actual game, Kimmery, is the goal. It's a vertical slice of the content of the game. So it's a vertical slice of the game, but it's the actual functional vertical slice. It's not a demo of a vertical slice, or it's not the bottom, it's not the crust of the vertical slice of the cake, if that makes sense, right? And so, yeah, we're making it in a way, like I think I showed you, we even have like bug reporting tool that was just added, which I don't know if the team knows why I get so excited about that, but it's again, thinking about all of the things that we would need and not taking them for granted. It's like a live service. So BDC Retro said you basically want to build a mini version fully featured of the final game. Yeah. Yeah. Like that. The bug tool will text Ali directly, which is nice. I don't know that that's true. All right, so I'm gonna back up like 30 seconds. I'm gonna hit play again.
The process of making the group. The lack of quest markers on your minimap, or indeed the lack of a detailed map at all, or the lack of fast travel, means you now faced adversity of talking to every NPC, finding a quest, memorizing the world, learning the lay of the land, or becoming friends with a class who could teleport you around. The act of exploring.
And I think, I mean, obviously this is self-serving. If you've been following our project, of course I think this, but these are also just different design choices. Like, there's nothing that says you need to have a mini map. There's nothing that says an NPC needs to have a, indication that they are a quest giver. Like, those are strictly just design choices.
And progressing was the adversity. That was the challenge. It wasn't easy, but for those who could do it, it was fulfilling. Then the mini-maps, teleport spells, fast travel, and icons and quest helpers and auto-run came along because players were leaving the game before even finding the quests due to the difficulty of the process. And it had to be made easier to increase player retention, or the players would leave for a game which was doing it. Again, in doing so, you are removing the adversity of learning the land at the expense of the player's long-term connection to the land. Most players simply don't have a very long attention span, or a great deal of patience to deal with failure.
He says most players. That's the thing, though. You don't need all the players. Especially if you look at the total addressable market these days, right? Like, I think about this a lot. If anybody can find a big flaw in the logic, please, I'm not bullshitting, let me know. Like, but the total addressable market in a world in which 220, I think 205, we can look it up in a minute. Like 200 million kids play Roblox. Like, that's just kids playing Roblox. Assuming that every one of the like 160 million monthly active users on Minecraft are the exact same kids that are playing Roblox. And this was a couple years ago. 225 million in December 2021 for Roblox. Yeah. That's a significant number of players, right? Like, and so imagine 10% of them decide that they want to play WoW. Right? Only 10% of them, for whatever reason. It's only 10%. Everybody else, half of them, they stop gaming when they hit like 15, 16, they churn out of it because you can't age out. Like, I guess they do have a problem with like players aging out of Roblox. But even that's interesting. Like, one of the biggest problems with Roblox, I guess I might be talking on my ass. If you work for Roblox, you can tell me, or if you read the news more recently than I have. But when they were talking about IPOing and stuff like that, one of their bigger risks was that their player base ages out. Where do they go? It could be that 90% of them just stop playing games entirely because they want to date, or they want to, work at a fast food restaurant or whatever, or spend all their time becoming a professional YouTuber. But that 10% still solid. And there's new kids going into that funnel every year as they're churning out, right? Like, that's a decent number just on that one front. That's not counting any of the people that are outside of that, group that are a bit older, have played other games. Most of you are, I think, in your 30s and up, right? So, like, the total addressable market, when you look at a subset of these various groups that are potentially interested or included in what could be sort of cobbled together as a total addressable market for say MMO, generically speaking, it's just massive compared to where it used to be. And so I think that, in my opinion, the challenge has actually been more on the front end of the problem and not the back end of the problem. The challenge, the problem has been more on designing or defining like a product and a business that is essentially able to take a slice or a sliver of that, and basically leverage that to have a profitable business capable of growing. Anyway, D Loves Pudding, sorry, I saw this earlier. In your conversations regarding funding, do you feel the prevailing economic conditions might present a more difficult time generating a great deal as opposed to a good deal in terms of funding? I don't know, because the limited conversations we've had, because we haven't been pursuing them, I think basically it's not the current economic conditions haven't impacted that yet in any sort of reasonable way. And if anything, I think what we're going to find in our sector is that it's an area that is kind of it's a fallback position for a lot of folks, because when stuff gets more expensive, when people don't feel that they can go out as much, if we see either a crisis or economic contraction, I think there are certain services that people look at and finally realize the value of their money, like the value for the money. So if it's $15 a month, sure, it's $15 a month, but it's $15 a month for a experience with a significant amount of content to be absorbed, where there's a higher degree of autonomy, and like autonomy in creating content for yourself as a customer than like Netflix. You know what I mean? It's interactive, which I think has a bigger sort of, naturally has a bigger impact than just passively consuming content. It's social, which when the shit hits the fan and things are kind of shitty, these social experiences, having a place to go, are actually pretty important, right? Like, so I think that investors will recognize that. I think bigger investors may not recognize that. I think smart investors will recognize that. And I think what we've been seeing with regards to investments in D Loves Pudding, you probably know this better than I do at this point, but what I think we've seen over the last 5 years with various mergers and acquisitions, and with game investment in general, is the bigger companies are looking for anything that's generating a bit of revenue and especially profit. And they're just, because I understand that they've essentially had free money to make those investments. And it's better than like it's sitting there and not getting, there's no like sort of interest on it or whatever, but instead we can buy this thing that's then going to generate a mild sort of return. And the bigger companies have been gobbling up everything. I'm wondering if the problem that we've had is that there's been so much money and there's been so many big acquisitions that they really haven't had to look at like smaller investments. All of that said, I still, to me, it would be hard to find a investor that would actually be good for us, if that makes sense. Like I think it would take a very sort of special kind of investor, because like we've had a discussion, and if if the person that we discussed it with is out there or watches this or whatever, not saying anything ill of the interaction or anything like that, but there was, we recently had a discussion, and the comment was made, essentially, an example was given for like a marketing spend. It's like, oh, well, for example, we could provide like a few million in marketing in return for like a 50% rev share or whatever. And to me, that's like yeah, we wouldn't do that just because we don't want a few million in marketing. That makes no sense for us, I don't think. And we've had a previous, like, somebody I know in the industry that works at a big company. It also mentioned, like, oh, well, there might be a deal to be had with giant corporation. But it would be essentially to the deal would be like investment, and then in order to get us on a platform so that as many eyeballs could see us as possible, but the target isn't for as many eyeballs to see us as possible, and then for us to have to change our game in order to facilitate that, or in order to maximize like the KPIs as part of some deal. It's like, oh, here, we can make sure that 30 million people see you. Okay, but then what are your expectations? Like how many of those people are we going to be expected to retain in order for this deal to be valid? And if we're expected to retain a decent portion of those 30 million, then how mainstream do we have to make the game? Okay, well, but that's not the game we're making. So why are we even having the conversation? Right? Does that make sense? Let's see. Monsters and memories, social media advertising. I honestly believe that, for us, the most important thing is getting a core audience that understands what we're wanting to make, and having good, having an opportunity for us to look and see if that core audience is then capable of us grinding forward in a way where then word of mouth and less conventional sort of advertising, like us, I mean, we all stream and things like that, instead of then throwing $70,000 at a streamer. D says, what I'm hearing is investors are saying what type of game they would be comfortable funding, and it sounds like it doesn't mesh well with the more almost lifestyle business with your core audience you're seeking to expand into. Yeah, I'm not shocked on. So, but the interesting thing is, again, like, it's a very self-serving statement because we, at the end of the day, have to make a game. I think a lot of those investors are looking for a sort of a scale of return, and a pace of return that then has them making riskier bets than they need to. And I know there are some companies out there that are basically trying to help indie studios get the game out, but like, and again, not to speak ill of these companies, I think it's fine for teams that want to do this, but like, there's a company that in theory we could have spoken more with or whatever, that's like, essentially, we would get to make the game that we want in theory. They would own it. And then we would get a decent sort of payout of the game that they own, that we made. Right? They basically, they own it, and they help run the production, and they deal with all the adult stuff and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's a non-starter. But that doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, let's go back.
Quest helpers and auto run came along because players were leaving the game before even finding the quests due to the difficulty of the process, and it had to be made easier to increase player retention, or the players would leave for a game which was doing it. Again, in doing so, you are removing the adversity of learning the land at the expense of the player's long-term connection to the land. Most players simply don't have a very long attention span. or a great deal of patience to deal with failure or time-consuming systems, so game designers needed to remove any and all roadblocks to failure, and this became a double-edged sword because they were now taking the process of adversity and resulting satisfaction and replacing it with a mundane, easy process and no emotional reward. This paradox of adversity can be applied to lots of MMORPG design elements. There used to be fewer MMOs, so players had less choice, meaning you could make your game more difficult. You could add in more adversity, whether that's the difficulty of the enemies, the quests, or even understanding the systems the game is made up of. Players would have to conquer them, and so be given the reward for conquering them. Ironically now, if something is too difficult, players will leave and go to another MMO because there is so much choice. It is incredibly ironic that the design which sets up satisfaction, adversity, is also the design which drives players away.
Do you feel that statement is 100% accurate in the context of what other videos have been saying? Right, because that premise has sort of been established earlier within the first third of the video, which is back in the day, there wasn't as much choice, so people stuck with games. But today, there's so much choice that people don't stick with games. Are there more wacky MMOs out today than there were in the early 2000s when everybody was making an MMO? And an honest question. I'm not trying to like bust balls or be snarkily rhetorical. Like I could have just maybe lost the pulse a bit, but it feels like a lot of the videos are talking about how there's not enough MMOs out there, and the MMOs that are out there are similar, etc. Right? So I don't know. I'll hit play again. You can tell me in chat.
In short, if you fill your MMO with player adversity, systems which the player must overcome, it will feel incredibly satisfying when a player advances through it, but it is also far more likely the average player will quit before reaching that satisfaction, because the process is difficult. And if you fill your game with easy systems which remove adversity, it is now much more likely that players will stick around and finish your game, but also they will feel very little connection to it because they never had to overcome adversity to get there. Difficult experience means less immediate fun, but a stronger long-term appreciation of it. An easy experience means more immediate fun, but a weaker long-term appreciation of it. You only need to look at the modern-day video game difficulty mythos to see how we as players value overcoming adversity. The Pandaren who leveled to maximum without leaving the starting zone. Swampletix taking on the Theatre of Blood while locked entirely inside Mauritania. Let Me Solo Her, killing Melania wearing only a pot on his head. The Happy Hob, performing no-hit runs of the Soulsborne games, sometimes consecutively. Rendy achieving the level 3 Fire Cape in old-school RuneScape, finishing the Mario games without collecting any coins. We value and respect those who overcome adversity in games, and if that player is us, we end up valuing and respecting ourselves. So the reason many players have fond memories of older MMOs and will tell new players that older games are better is because they contained a lot more adversity and playing them demanded you overcome it, giving you as a player that deep sense of satisfaction which comes with doing that. They may not be fun in the moment, but they are infinitely more satisfying to look back on. Modern day MMORPGs have removed as much adversity as they can because that improves the early to mid-game experience. The irony, of course, is you will retain more players, but you won't be generating those very human, very intense, very memorable experiences that come with overcoming an adverse system. It's why killing a boss after 100 attempts feels better than killing the boss after 1 attempt. You have achieved something difficult. The irony, of course, is that most players won't stick around for 100 attempts. They will declare it too difficult and move on to a different game. Many players ask for easy routes to be added because they focus on the gameplay experience of right now more than the long-term experience and satisfaction gained by conquering a challenge. The skill in games design is to find that Goldilocks zone, where a game is challenging and rewarding while not being frustrating to the point of making a player quit. Older MMOs had much less competition. Players couldn't just leave for another game at a moment's notice, and even if they did, it would be just as difficult. So that Goldilocks zone was much broader for older MMOs. When Blizzard said, "You think you do, but you don't," what they meant was they believed a modern-day MMO player base would quit Classic WoW due to the adversity in the game's design, the lack of group finder and the lack of quest giver's location on the minimap, before they were able to reach the satisfying level of WoW Classic and value the experience that overcoming the adversity gave them. Modern Blizzard design seems to be remove all adversity at the expense of all long-term satisfaction. So the next time you hear an older MMO player saying they want old-style MMOs back, what they likely mean is, while they may not remember the less fun process of playing the game, they miss the end feeling of overcoming adversity that the game gave them. But what do you think? Should modern MMOs be designed with fewer features so players have to push through adversity to gain the satisfaction of overcoming it, or should the adversity be removed to increase early game player retention at the cost of long-term satisfaction? Or should self-imposed limitations, such as RuneScape's Iron Man mode, be adopted by the game industry and made available for self-imposed adversity? What's the best design choice here? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. Another massive thank you to the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter and Discord. And as always, have a great day.
Okay. Now to our contemplation music. Yeah, so I'd asked the question earlier about there being enough MMOs, and it seems to be some disagreement. John says, I think there's plenty of MMOs, but they're all pretty much the same. Race to max level, usually solo. Do in-game content as a group, but people haven't learned how to group. So they have a they have to base in-game around that. And then Goblin said, I don't agree with this. In terms of MMO choices right now, what are there really? It feels like people are craving good MMO. Maybe it's how we got here, however. So D-Loves Pudding said, back in sort of the business part of that, and if anybody disagrees with any of the statements earlier, feel free to, well, I'm sure you'll let me know in some way or another, but you can also just like hit me up and ask for clarification or whatever. Like I said, discussing some of this stuff spur of the moment on a stream isn't necessarily where I'm going to articulate it best. I think I'm more of a text person on some of this stuff. But, and I also don't do React videos, so apologies if that was weird. The argument is that game developers moved into more mobile and console over the last 10 plus years, and are only now do we see indie studios returning to PC. Yeah, well, I mean, the return to PC in general is a topic, right? Like, was it Sony that just said that they're going to be publishing all of their games on PC as well? Somebody, like some big player like that just said that, right? Like, you know, the whole PC is dead mantra that's been going on in game companies. And, you know, I've seen it. Like, I've been in companies at this point that I think 3 times now, where they had successful PC-based online games, or MMOs specifically, and they did a hard shift to mobile because that's where everybody was going. And it's just a mistake. It was far more profitable to make a mobile game for a long time, and it's much easier and cheaper to make. That's why we have 100 billion mobile games. Yeah, and that's why teams are then making their game and having to spend like $3 million a month on performance marketing to try to even have somebody see them. Yeah, it's been it's been really interesting to look at that. And in the meantime, people still have PCs, still play PC games. Droop said, what's your goal though? Smaller dedicated base, or just make a game with the goal to retain the most subs above all else? Droop, was that in response to somebody or a question for me? Kuro said, in the early days of MMOs, it was about player retention. It was about, will anybody play this game we love? The devs were literally rolling dice with something that was a massive passion project, just hoping to share it with enough people to keep it alive. Kuros, I think that was true in the early days, but then as soon as they started making a lot of money, it started to become a little bit more about, we started thinking, we weren't doing it in a very sophisticated manner, but we were definitely thinking more about things like retention, but nowhere like it, in no way similar to the level to which that gets analyzed these days. And I do think there's a point in what you're saying with regards to, will anybody play this game we love? I've definitely seen the shift towards the attitude of game developers should not make games for themselves. Right, I've heard that statement in plenty of management, you know, in plenty of meetings with executive management, you know, C-level management. It's, we can't make games for ourselves. We need to identify our target customer, and then we need to dissect what makes them think, and then we need to make the game for them. And it's like, okay, and we need the team to be passionate about making that game that they're not making for themselves. Yeah, Nicodemus. Please save Quit said my essay size take in tweet form, which I saw happening in real time in the industry, is that games stopped being passion projects and they became money-making projects. That's why M&M's got so much potential. You're trying to say that we're not going to make money? How dare you? Holy shit, what did I walk into? Let me deal with the overlapping music. I know, I'm just busting balls. I'm kidding. Yeah, so before next week, we'll try to get the new animations in. And I'll try to see if I can cobble together the remaining placeholder animations needed for just sort of the basic feedback in in combat. Squiggly lines, thank you for 12 months. So, Kuros, I appreciate that. That is a very kind sentiment. And if you're new here, ignore some of the wonkiness with the character. We've been doing a lot of work on the character customization. So we've broke a number of things in the process of trying to fix some stuff or add some stuff. So I used to look a little bit more like that, and now I look a little bit more like this. So let's see. So anyways, Kuros, to your point, I think we're trying to do both, right? Like if we're going to be real about what we're doing, the team isn't dedicating their time. I don't know. I don't want to speak for the whole team, but I would say that I believe it's got to be a mix of both. The team's got to feel proud of the thing that they're working on, and you know, want this thing that they're making to feel like it's theirs, and it's a expression of the, you know, the kind of work that they want to do and the kind of game that they want to play. On the flip side, they have to also be expecting that there is an opportunity for us to be successful and have you know, more than just like a sustenance level of success. Like the idea is, oh, we should do better than expecting, then, you know, we're modestly sort of projecting, and then we should do that in a way where we share in those profits in a way that makes it well worth our while for everything that we've invested up until then. Goblin, you just said that it looks like every race will have a fighter. Don't take that as a pattern, though. Not getting anything else from you in terms of spoiler. Are you going off the list you made or the one I made? Because it sounds like you're going off your list. Indie devs can afford passion projects. When you're part of a corporate machine, however, your goal is to make money. You see this a lot in AAA games. Yeah, the question that I've had though is, and I've never been a AAA studio. Like the closest thing was probably Sony Online, and that wasn't AAA. I'm not gaslighting you, Goblin. I'm pretty sure that there's at least one race that doesn't have a fighter. Because I was reining in the class count, and I thought at least one race could sacrifice it based on their who they are. Let's pull up both lists just to be sure. In due time. It's news to you, but I am right. I try not to be wrong. I don't like being wrong. I mean, I feel bad if I'm wrong. Not like I feel bad both personally, but I also don't like to tell somebody something that's not true. Keith said, I feel like tons of gameplay design could change from POC to relays. I bet you guys will be experimenting with race class combinations for a long time. Yeah, I mean, our goal is to not have it be completely up in the air, though. We'd rather have a strong foundation with everything that we're doing, and then if we find... Oh, okay. Who's in here with me, Nick? Oops. My Swedish keyboard. Yeah, Nick. Okay. See, he's giving you Freeport vibes. It is a coastal desert city, so I'm not super shocked there. Let's just say that we definitely have our inspirations as well. John said it bothered you that they gave gnomes Shadow Knights and EQ because they had both parent classes but never gave erudites warriors, despite erudites having the child class and parent class. Do you think that was an oversight? I just targeted right into that. Do you think it was an oversight? Do you think that there was some thought of like being a warrior's beneath an erudite? Not super intellectual. Sorry, warriors. One of you guys said something before that I wanted to answer and then I just distracted myself, as usual. Oops. The question of, given the size of our first city, do we think it's feasible that we'd have a starting city for every proposed race at launch, or do we think some races could become expansion races? It's feasible that some races could become expansion races no matter what. It's feasible that we could have all the races at launch, whatever we define that as, but not their starting cities or not their cities, and have those cities become, in a sense, expansion content. It's feasible that we could get a giant bag of Jeff Bezos money and take longer to come out and provide both. So really what we're doing, he's huge. Why is he so big? So it's really just going to be us figuring out as we go, first of all, how long it actually takes us to build you guys kept talking about Freeport, almost said Freeport. See how long it takes us to actually build Night Harbor, and see how the rest of the proof of concept is progressing, and then from there we'll be looking at how do we want to progress with what we're calling launch, and what do we want to define launch as. But to me, it's always interesting, like if a team at this stage in development has some pretty firm ideas on what launch looks like, I think it's kind of, oops, I leveled. It's kind of interesting because of the fact that we've still got enough stuff ahead of us that could potentially throw a wrench in the works of all of that. I'd rather us be currently focused on getting this foundation laid and continuing to learn. So. Don't know if Gary pushed it, by the way, but we have new skin tones for human, ogre, and gnome, hair colors too. And it's still on the random. Here, I'll let the sun go down because that's pretty, and then I can pop out and take a look. Grix asks, have you all made a decision on which races are solidly going to be available at launch? No. There's part of me that's very curious with the way that we're approaching character customization, and as we're looking at animation and the work that we've been doing curious to see how much we can actually push on that front, and even if we aren't going to make the various cities and stuff, how much we just as a team can basically knock out the full roster of races. But we'll see. I think, you know, realistically, we'll always have a prioritized list. That's something we need to talk about internally, but we did get some good survey data from y'all as well. But having a prioritized list, and we just kind of work through it and go, all right, what's the next stop, and kind of see how that feels as we go. Do you have any races that have that their racial city is not on the same continent as Night Harbor? I will say that in the current lore, no. Kronos asked, what would you say is a more likely route? Outside investor funding or crowdfunding? My belief is that if we build the right proof of concept, we have the potential for both options happening in a reasonable manner. But what do you know, right? Like, because I think the proof of concept, it's, you know, we've mentioned some dates, like not dates, but sort of time frames. Like, we do want to have people from the community in and playing with us this year. And we want this thing to go out in a playable form sooner rather than later, right? We're not necessarily, and that may seem obvious, but I think the other route could also be like, well, you know, we know this will take X number of years because we want to have this huge pile of content that's available. We want to build out this larger vision of the game, and then we'll officially go live. Like, for us, it's how do we go into kind of a smaller scale live operations mode sooner rather than later, because there's so much that we can learn there, and we've got to identify the right critical mass of content for the community to be able to retain folks and not burn them out as we go for a reasonable amount of time, right? So the possibility that we have a really great proof of concept, and the response keeps getting better and better, which right now, you know, for as early as we are with everything that we're doing, it's really been a great response. Right, September will be 2 years since we first started talking about, like, hey, let's make this thing. Fly. Oh, yeah, I'm on. Fly. Okay. Oops. Fly. And invul. So I think, based on the response that we've had so far, if we can continue to make progress at the same rate as we've been going, or improve it in certain areas, I think the conversations that we've had to date, where people have been very supportive or looking at specific ways where they or their company could support us, I think that'll only improve. And it's feasible then that we have a choice between sort of routes, and we're able to again consider which ones which one's best for the game and the team and the community. So I don't know. I need to get the previous VODs posted. I was just thinking about some of the player customization stuff that we were showing off in the stream on Tuesday. A human fighter. So Gary's working on getting the actual UI in place for you to be able to swap out features. Hey, Bunny. So right now it's still randomizing it just so you can kind of see different pieces being assembled. And this is just the like the first. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Keith's got on the Mandrake Farms site, he's got that clipped out. Character customization, environment, systems, etc. on that link. You like how they duck off screen? Like quick change artists? Not intended, but yeah. So even with these just sort of like first pass features, this has got the limited Goblin, this is with the sort of limited choices that you sort of pulled out, like the palette for these different things, right? It's funny when they stay down there longer. I'm like, he's really digging through the pile of options, I guess. The skin pile. Yeah, he's got a box full of skins. Be nice with just bald head as well. I don't know what the bald head looks like, but getting I'm really excited to get the like the actual controls in for that. Be curious to decide how you guys decided constraints for tones and such. Keith, we were talking about that, and I think it. I don't know that we need constraints for like skin tones versus hair color. I think we need to just put in reasonable options there. But it's going to wind up being a palette. If you'd seen this like yesterday or day before, it was like, for whatever reason, I guess it's what the dark tones versus the highlights or whatever, and like the eyebrows. I kept getting like this red option where it looked like I just had somebody had painted flames on my face. So yeah, those of you that are really new to the stream, I haven't done this much today. Apologies. This is the game, Monsters and Memories. Check out the website. Here's our Discord. We stay pretty active in it and try to respawn. And it's a fairly friendly place. If you decide to come check it out, be nice. That's the only thing we ask. Don't have to kiss our ass, but be polite. It's a nice community. Yeah, so the gnome jumps. Everybody else falls. The gnome jumps. I saw that earlier. So those of you that are new, but you've stumbled into it because of the fact that we're in the software development channel. Essentially everything that you see is a work in progress. We've just been streaming the entire process from, I think, even before there was a process, right? Like we were streaming other stuff, and then the idea for the game came up, and then we decided to start making the game. So there are people in the community that have been a part of the community since before there was a game to have a community. So what you're seeing is very much us getting the initial tech in, and then us playing through sort of early iterations. Of things like textures and how we construct the textures, etc. Yeah, it'll be nice when we got so Gary, have I made you are you set to... Okay. You should be a mod now as well. So Gem Fog is Gary. Gary's been implementing this on the tech side. But yeah, it'll be nice when we've got even more variations, and I think there's still some tweaking to be done with some of the art here. Did I see Panis' stream yet with his gnome adventures? The gnome is so small he's able to hurl himself through the bar windows into the ocean. If it's the most recent one, I haven't seen it. Hey, Yazan. But I've seen him hop through windows for sure. Do I even have a gnome? I guess I could create a gnome real quick. Hurling gnomes into the ocean isn't a bad idea. John, that is not the kind of behavior we like on this stream. If there's money involved, then that's acceptable. I can definitely, I can see that as an excuse. I love how fast gnomes feel. The gnome is so small you could just reskin him to be a mandrake. I don't think that's how that works, oddly enough. So depending on the weather this weekend, we'll see if the weather is crappy like it's supposed to be. Then I'll get in here and continue to add vendors and other stuff. Continue to work on population in here. Where was he throwing himself into the ocean? Prison bar windows. Yeah, these gnomes, they've got great hopping skills. Hey, Monty. Here we go. Did he make adjustments so that I couldn't escape? Thank you, Monty. The prison has been modified after gnomes have escaped. Yeah, I don't know the last bit that you've seen, Monty, but we've been steadily adding new stuff. So I think by the end of this month there'll be a. I don't know if we'll have another video, but maybe. But there's a bunch to look at. Let me out of here. Oh, cool. How's the new job doing? No, I got you. Amazing. Really love it. That's nice to hear. Hey, Tigon. Are you working with any new top secret hardware by any chance? Get you to break your NDA within days of starting. One question NDA worker. Yeah, it's straight out of the gate. Like, oh, we gotta fix the water volume. I'm not swimming. Mark just posted a video showing some next-gen headset prototypes. To the world or just to the internal? And to the internal meta? To the world? Nice. It'll pass a visual Turing test. Well, we take the HMD that passes the visual Turing test. We plug in the chatbot that passes the Turing test. And there we go. People can just sit around in a synthetic reality. We got ourselves a human battery farm. There we go. It's funny. It's funny, like, if the AI came online soon enough, I would definitely, I think it would be great to have random AI players in here as well. You don't even know. The person you're talking to could just be AI. Do you think they'd enslave us or just wipe us out? I don't think enslave. Did they ever establish why humans were using robots as batteries? Because they didn't have access to the sun, and I guess they didn't figure out nuclear reactors. GTP3 bots are just talking in global. Protest the bread. I was reading about them and was very much like, is there something we can do here with our NPCs? There was a question about commercial use. But then watching or reading about the Lambda AI or chatbot, as people here have described it or whatever, the other day, it was, I could definitely see that being a pleasant player experience. It's like you're in a group with somebody. Hey, let's pick up that gnomish cleric in the... I don't think you want to do that, Dave. Okay, so for Tuesday, what I'll do is work on getting the animations added. And we'll see what they look like in game, hopefully. And then probably be doing some population work over the weekend. I promise to upload all of the old stream VODs to YouTube that are missing. By then, I wouldn't be shocked if there's some more art stuff that we could show off from the other streams. Yeah, I think that's it. I've just been really excited at the idea of running around in the newbie yard and seeing more things sort of moving and then fighting things and getting that feedback. So well, there's Nick. Oh yeah, if you didn't see it already, the feet are actually on the ground, which is nice. That helped. I'm telling you, we should just allow for our first mount when we're getting this stuff implemented. Ollie should just have gnomes riding rats. I think we'll be good. Oh man, I zoned right as the rain started. Let me zone out. Can I walk between the legs? Yeah. At the current size, I'm pretty sure I can go through there pretty cleanly. So those of you that missed it on Tuesday, Ollie's been working on getting the weather system in. So he created a rainforest. Oh, and you can't see it as well now, but there's now clouds in the sky. I assume something like a global weather system is not in the cards. I wouldn't necessarily count on that. It was funny. Ollie had some questions on that front. From a technical standpoint, how do you determine when a zone has weather effects? Do you just have to check at the beginning of every hour or something? What do you mean? Like, how do we implement weather effects? Or trigger them? If it's raining in a zone, will it rain inside the buildings? No, we've already got that fixed. Like I'm just in an overhang right here, so. In terms of triggering them. So we're good here. Like the droplet circles as they hit the ground. I know it's a real basic implementation, but I like the circles. We can improve the art a little bit, but did the tinting work? I went for a light jog. Oh yeah, on character crate, yeah. Other things that we're looking at getting in soon. I don't think they'll be here Tuesday, but who knows? They may be in the next week or so. Attachments. So like backpack, quivers, belt pouches, bags, potion holders, cloaks. So with regards to the trigger room, Droop, I think it's currently set up on just sort of a random at the moment, but Ollie was asking, I could have sworn Ollie was talking a little bit about, no, I know for a fact Ollie had asked a little bit about us doing a bit more of an investment on like, managing the weather and having it be, you know, essentially done in a way where we've got like a real weather system. So he had asked if I felt like it was a unnecessary sort of addition or level of detail or whatever. And honestly, I think I can picture how it's not much harder to sort of go beyond this and get something that actually provides us some good benefit. So attachments already? Yep. For us to really be able to say that we understand our character creation system, we need to get the attachments in, including cloth stuff, robes, and just make sure everything, we've got a sort of basic idea of how it works. It'd be nice. It'd be cool if you could see storms rolling in, so you have multiple steps from sunny to clear to cloudy, dark to rain. Yep. And then we've talked for a long time. If you go to our website and you look on the FAQ, and from there you go to the roadmap, we've been talking about wanting to have things like seasons since the beginning of this as well. So we'll see. You know, it's not the most massive priority, but I think there's some good stuff that we can do. And we want to be able to link weather to the content as well. The example we've used in the past is dust storm rolls in, and then you've got dust dervishes and other NPCs that kind of roll into the data set as part of that. Change NPC behavior in the city as well. Maybe they go indoors. So all of those things I think are easy enough to drive based on how we have stuff set up. And then seasons would, depending on the region, have a bigger impact. If you look at, I think if you look at what Ashes of Creation have been discussing with regards to their seasons, I think those ideas are something that it's feasible even a smaller team could be able to do / leverage. I think in one of their more recent ones where they're talking about it, they were talking about like using the seasonal, the changes that come from weather and seasonal system to also convey things like, a frost dragon has come down into the desert, and the changes in the immediate biome kind of is all part of indicating that that's happened or whatever. I don't think that's super crazy outlandish, but you know, it does ultimately expand the number of assets or asset variations that we either have to create or have to sort of understand how we are going to do it in our setup. But kind of like the way that we've shown off in the videos, like tinting textures and doing some of the skin tinting and customization, there may be ways for us to have like a, I forgot that he does the butt wiggle as well, a cheaper way of doing it. So yeah, so how long are you thinking for a day-night cycle in real time? We've gone back and forth on that. The current one's very fast. I think like 45 minutes. I think I've mentioned 45 minutes in the past. I always get it confused. If you remember EQs, I could have sworn that was either 70 minutes or 45 minutes. But 45 minutes means that you can see a full day-night cycle in an hour session. That's what I've been thinking. So we can get it in and see, does it feel fast or slow or whatever. So. Five seconds. Welcome to Strobe World. Yeah, we have to put a warning. As a gnome, I want to be able to ride one of these dudes as well. We've got plenty of mounts. What was Ollie talking about? Just start with gnomes. I mean, shit, these guys are big enough that a human could ride one. So, Ollie is starting to dig into a bit, or at least soon. But he's already thinking and talking about mounts because that's another system that we want to have be pretty fully featured. And so we want to get that in sooner rather than later, even with placeholder art. Because like we've talked about ideas in the past, like equipments for mounts and that equipment including storage, right? Because we've been messing with our storage constraints, and mount death. I'm assuming mount effect. Mounts are consuming food and drink as well. So there's a bunch that'd be going into our mounts that we need to consider. But you should compile notes, buddy. Be sure to also look at the mounts page in Confluence before you compile your note. Curious to see how backpacks and such will appear on smaller races. They will appear smaller and cuter, if I had to guess. I think the ogre is just making a parade. The ogre has a tendency to train things. Those of you that are new to the stream, be sure to bounce around, check out some of the older videos and stuff as well. I need to get it up. Tuesday I ran around and showed some of the other zones, but if you check out our VODs, go to our YouTube. Be sure to, if you like what you see, be sure to sub. I've got to imagine that it helps us in terms of discoverability. We currently have what, like 1,100 people in Discord. We've got like 1,600 people on the mailing list, but we've only got like 880 or 890 subscribers on YouTube. Doesn't cost you anything. We try to reply to your comments. Oh geez, you just feared everything. So people are always asking, oh man, this looks really cool. How do we support it? Support it by subbing to, like, you don't have to sub to this stream. I appreciate it, but you really don't have to. Subbing on YouTube and joining the mailing list, coming into Discord. Thank you, Bruce Lee. Oh, nice going, Gloves. I'd be shocked if Nick hasn't been looking into it. Now you can see, by the way, you can see the new clouds. They're pretty cool. Yeah. I'm gonna back up. Watch the sunrise. Maybe come up on this hill. But yeah, so if you haven't checked them out before, definitely hit up our YouTube and look. We show off some of the other zones from the proof of concept. Mostly in blockout form. But you can kind of see the evolution of the project over the last year. You can see back when we had boats working. You can see Nick being killed by a boat. That's a good one. Oh, and definitely check out Keith. Post the link to the Mandrake Farms YouTube. Keith's been making, like, because these streams go on for 3 or 4 hours. He's been doing a fantastic job of basically pulling out, like, 3-minute, 20-minute, 10-minute clips and stuff on specific topics. And so be sure to give him a sub as well. Remember when there were capsules out there? It seems like long ago now. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, but I sure do remember. He's terrifying. That really does have, like, the Jason and the Argonauts feel to it. There's still a couple capsules in game. For those of you that haven't seen them before, I'll show you. Where is she? There she is. Did you at least give the capsules a nose? No, they had eyes though. So this is what the player and everybody looked like, all the way up until not too horribly long ago. Oh man, I just got a little nostalgic looking at. Weird. I remember those days. Oh, funny. That's so cool. That was kind of a weird little moment. There's our giant capsule. Nick is in illusion giant form. Yeah, Goblin has an idea for repurposing the animations. Future holiday event. All or a bunch of NPCs turns into capsules. I think having a capsule, some sort of a capsule event would be fun. In memory of those first days. Okay, guys. My Red Bull is worn off. I am starving. I promise there'll be some new stuff to look at on Do the capsules have a UV? Not that I know of. Like any sort of like thought put into the UV? No, I think it's just material applied to the entire thing. But what do I know? Yeah, thank you very much. I'm gonna get out of here. It was a strange stream. Hopefully it was enjoyable. Like I said, when I babble about business stuff, I'm not saying that I actually know what I'm talking about.
Have a good afternoon, evening, smiley face.
Haslam, thank you for 14 months. Yeah, so you know, take anything that I've said when we were watching the video with Josh. Take it with a grain of salt. It could be I don't know what I'm talking about. Could be you know, there are other people out there that maybe are like, that doesn't make sense, or have you thought about whatever. We've got some smart people in chat as well. As you can see, especially on the business side. Thanks for the questions. D loves pudding. Everybody else. I'm giving you what information I have, or am expressing my thoughts on certain topics is what it is. Hopefully when you guys either check into it, or if you happen to have similar sort of background or whatever, hopefully you listen to it and it checks out. And that instills confidence in you. If you hear it and you're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, not kidding. Always feel free to shoot me a DM or whatever and be like, hey man, I don't think you're correct on blah, blah, blah. And we can talk it out. And I can see if I either misspoke, because I'm always a bit awkward when I'm trying to think on stream. Streaming actually does not come very natural to me. Or it could be that I just misspoke, or it could be I don't know what I was talking about. And so that'll be an opportunity for me to learn as well. But yeah, there was a lot of just sort of the more, I guess, business side of the game development topic hit today. If it checks out, if you enjoy it, you can also, we can discuss certain things in more detail, and I can reflect on what we were talking about and get have some more to either come back with or articulate or whatever. So cool. Yep. Yeah. Sorry. Involvents. We're using Unity. 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 So yeah. Rev, thanks for being here and also for being so early. Grix, thank you as well. I'll get the VODs posted. I'll get the VODs posted over the next couple of days and get caught up on that. Keith, you're welcome. Thank you for making all the cool videos. John, see you later. Nicodemus, enjoy your weekend as well. And yeah, I'm gonna get out of here and see if we can get some stuff done before Tuesday. Cool. See you guys.